Some of the themes discussed in this podcast are for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
This is a serialized podcast, so I suggest that you start at episode 1 to enjoy the whole story.
Beware, my friend, trouble roads are to come. Tall grass, long snakes, fall not for their charm. Lift your head, forget the dance in your pride. Sometimes in life we need to be fooled twice.
Fool Me Twice follows the story of my mother, Jules Hannaford, in her attempts to find love online. I'm Zara Hannaford, and in this series, I'm trying to understand romance scams, why people fall for them, and how they work. As soon as she'd managed to remove herself from the situation, she had 20/20 vision with hindsight. All the moving parts that had previously been so difficult to catch and pin down were now settling into place. This man was a scammer, probably a professional scammer, and he'd been playing her from the start. She changed her flight and came to see me in London and told me the story, leaving out the part about exactly how much money she'd lost. Maybe she wasn't ready to share the extent of the damage. She seemed shaken, but she also appeared to have a handle on herself and the reality that she was quite lucky to have made it out mostly unhurt. Later that day, she flew back to Hong Kong. Chapter 1. Back to reality.
Once I got home to Hong Kong, the very next day I went to work. I gave vague details to a few of my closest friends who knew I went on the trip. That evening I talked to a friend in Australia and she told me to stop beating myself up and be thankful to be home and safe in one piece. She suggested I do something healing or cathartic to help overcome the trauma, and I decided to write it all down. As I was writing, it finally dawned on me that I'd been deceived from the very beginning and had been caught in a major dating scam. Every single move he made was part of a grand plan. Right down to not insuring the car, not having a credit card, the bogus construction job, professing his love for me, the mates, the shops and the jewellery. The fact that he would not email me or text much but only speak on the phone or on Skype without a camera were now clear signs of fraud and hinted at the possible involvement of many more people. It was all part of the plan of a seasoned predator who knew exactly what he was doing. I called my friend from work who knew the whole story and I cried my eyes out. Finally, once I was home safe and sound, I went into complete shock for the first time. I hadn't cried since I left the hotel with the recovered hire car, as I just switched into survival mode to get out and maintain damage control. It was great to have her there to reassure me while I had a meltdown. She talked me through my revelations and then I continued to write down my experience moment by moment.
Here's Elina Juusola, author and advocate for victims of romance scams. This is her perspective on healing.
Well, time heals. That's the biggest one. And the fact I've learned that you do have to remove yourself from the situation. You actually have to be very, very strict with yourself and not going on and talking about it like on and on and on again. The longer you keep on repeating in this one phase, the longer you suffer. So that's what I've learned. And I was lucky in a way. A New Zealander friend of mine who actually was scammed into to becoming a money mule, and she spent 2.5 years in the prison in South America. She was sort of right in the way that you really have to remove yourself wholly from this situation. And even if you just don't have any computers or don't have any phones or anything, so that you keep yourself away from the situation, and in that way you can start your own life. The other one also, which I feel, is that the more you are engaged in the community where you live with your family, the better support you have from your family, then the better the healing and the quicker the healing is. And that you don't have family who say, it's your fault or something like that. Instead, they would put the blame where the blame is, which is with the scammers. And in that way, the healing is also quicker. Also, there are quite good support groups. Now I live in Finland, so we don't have really a lot of support groups in Finland, but in America, and then you have international support groups like SCAS, the Society of Citizens Against Relationship Scams, and they got lots of different kinds of groups to find support. What's important is that life goes on. Everyone needs to, look at the positive of your own life. Our own ideas and what we believe makes our life, so we can change our belief systems. And instead of saying that all these people are, vindictive towards us and they are the ones who are scamming us, you just should look at your surroundings and things like that, and be more engaged in your own community and the people near you. That's where you might find healing. So find yourself somebody to be supportive, remove yourself from the scammer totally, and then learn and educate yourself about scamming, and then don't take it personally. That's my healing tips.
As a result of being scammed, I've promised everyone that I will never fly overseas to meet a strange man again. For a short while, I was hopeful that Truman would honour his word and pay me back. But after putting the events down in black and white, I realised that I would never see the money or him again. I had to just let it go and pay the price literally and figuratively.
Chapter 2. Shame.
It's taken over 8 years to finish writing down my story because I felt so much shame that I shelved it for years. I couldn't face the fact that I'd been so gullible and naive. I was worried about the reaction of my friends and family when they read the book and realised the full extent of my story. Until recently, none of my family knew about this story apart from my daughter and brother. I felt so afraid about being judged and the repercussions of my choices and the way people might see me if they knew the truth. Nevertheless, I kept reaching out to friends I trusted and shared my story with them. They were so non-judgmental and caring, it made me realise that they didn't think any differently of me, even though I'd been so afraid they would. It was the process of telling my story over time that allowed me to do perhaps the most vulnerable thing I've ever done, publish a book about my experience.
Brené Brown is a researcher who has begun a shame revolution. She defines shame as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we're flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Something we've experienced, done, or failed to do makes us unworthy of connection. Shame is different than guilt. While we might find it easy to admit guilt and speak about it, shame gets its power from silence and being kept hidden. Shame doesn't let us make the distinction between an action and an identity. So my mother talks about being unable to face the fact that she was gullible and naive. Because of the shame she felt at her actions, she assumed an identity as someone easily fooled. Another way she could have looked at this was to see her actions as naive or gullible, but not going so far as to say this makes it true that she's always a gullible or naive person. Certainly, she had been led into making decisions that weren't the best for her. But when working with shameful feelings, it's important to separate the self from the actions. I made bad choices, rather than I am bad. Shame motivates us to hide or to save face. So the fact that my mother was reaching out to friends for support and telling the truth of what had happened to her was an important first step to her healing and eventual recovery. She received perspective from her friends that was decidedly free from self-blame, which helped her to position herself as a victim of something bad, rather than someone whose inherent character made her somehow deserve the bad things that happened. Our friend Brene tells us that empathy is the antidote to shame, and so seeking empathy from friends and family made sure that the shame couldn't survive. Brown says that shame requires secrecy, silence, and judgment in order to thrive. Talking about it is a surefire way to shine light on the tendency to feel shame, which loves to be hidden in the darkness. Fool Me Twice is sponsored by Buster Rut, a health and well-being program that's changed Jules' life for the better.
Angela Hancock is the founder of Buster Rut and is passionate about empowering her clients to perform at the highest levels in all areas of their lives, physically and mentally, both at work and play. If you commit to her superfood nutritional system for just 30 days, you will kickstart your health journey and create a sustainable framework so that you can enjoy a healthy lifestyle in the long term. You'll be embraced by a supportive community which will keep you inspired, motivated, and accountable. Layer her nutritional system into your existing regime or completely replace your current one. The choice is yours and will depend on your personal health goals. Healthy aging, improved sleep, increased energy, mental focus, fat loss, muscle gain, enhanced performance, better mood. These are just some of the benefits reported by her clients.
Roger A. Grimes talks about how people can heal after being scammed, and how victims can seek support from their families and friends.
A lot of times these people feel embarrassed because they were discounting of relatives and family members' concerns. And a lot of times they've broken off these friendships and they've burned some bridges. And the best thing I can say is that the family or people that have been off-putted by the victim as they attempted to help them just recognize that it was something stronger. You know, it would be as if somebody was addicted to something. You need to understand that it was beyond their power to see what you saw and forgive them. You know, so emotionally, the people that were hurt by the victim that were trying to help the victim need to let it go and say, I understand you were mean to me or told me you didn't want to speak to me again, but understand that they're in a place that was beyond their, psychological control, and forgive them and give them love, as much as you can, because the victim is feeling embarrassed. They're feeling, angry with themselves, angry with the scammer. They're embarrassed. And a lot of times, if they feel like the family's still going to be, mean with them, or the family members aren't going to forgive them, I would say, part of that is for everybody to forgive themselves and to know that, again, it was nothing that the person got duped wasn't a thing of intelligence or common sense. Common sense and intelligence doesn't apply. It's something beyond that says something about the human spirit and loneliness in the human spirit. And then, try to get the victim involved in activities. And, the thing is, you have this online romance. Well, let's get you out there and going to dancing clubs or going to play cards or going to, try to get them involved in more activities where they can establish real world relationships with real people that aren't going to victimize them.
Chapter 3, Closing the Chapter. In a bid to obtain closure, she wrote an email to Truman. She knew that she'd never see the money again, but thought it was worth a shot to ask him anyway.
Dear Truman, Here are my bank details so you can transfer the money. You owe me £4,100. Payment of £600 should be made this week when you get paid. Please send me a quick text or email to confirm when the payments have been made. Thanks, Jules.
Truman responded with a long and accusatory email.
You are a liar. You lied that you don't smoke for me to come and catch you smoking, and you run off into the lobby of the hotel. You made me quit my job making a good income on your pretext. I then invested in a phone shop thinking I would be starting life with a truthful woman. To find out that it was all a big lie, to make things worse, you went back on your promise for me to use the car until Tuesday. Taking a hire car from me in the middle of the night, I had to start putting all my items on the street, all because your true colors came out after I found out. All the time I was smelling smoke on your breath, you had been lying to my face. I lost my virtual phone that night due to your falsehoods, and I have lost a lot more due to your lies. The money given has gone into the business as agreed, and I may be going back to look for a job because now I realize I was a big fool to quit my job to spend time with a funny, pretentious liar. You said the money was in good faith in a fake relationship, and due to your lies, the money is lost, and my money is all down the drain. You owe me £12,000 for my virtual phone. I know you have taken it. You owe me for making me quit my job, knowing very well you were still smoking, knowing very well that I would never invest in a future with a smoker and liar. How dare you contact me with bank details when you have left my life in total turmoil and have my phone? Kindly make arrangement to give my phone to my mate in Hong Kong, who will post it to me. He will contact you once he has confirmed with me that you have agreed to give my phone back. But most importantly, there is no remorse for your cold, mean, and selfish action. Truman Buhari.
Here's Roger A. Grimes talking about the steps a person should take when they realize they've been caught in a scam.
Number one, don't physically meet them at all or again. Number two, break off all contact. And, once you've really finally become convinced this is a scammer, the trap I see a lot of people get into is the previous victim, the person that was victimized, is trying to make the scammer understand they know it's a scam. But those scammers, they've heard every single argument that you're going to propose to them 100 times. They are prepared with those claims, and they usually bilk many of those victims for more money. So I tell people, okay, now that you know this is a scammer, you must refuse to communicate with them because, you're still, it's kind of like coming out of a cult or something. Those victims are still, there's a part of them that still hopes and wishes or believes because they wouldn't have been victimized in the first place. But now you've got them convinced that they've been victimized, and you need to cut off all connection, communications, whatever it takes to do that, because if they're allowed to interface with the scammer and they want to tell that scammer, I know you were a scammer and this or that, a percentage of those people are going to be re-brought in and re-victimized again. So my advice is cut off all connections. Do not attempt to explain to the scammer that they're a scammer. It's like getting them out of a cult. You get them in the van, you get them away from the cult, and you don't allow them to have connection with the cult anymore, because it takes a long time for the victim to get to a place of true safety from that person.
Chapter 4, The Police Statement.
I contacted the Manchester police and they agreed to accept my statement from Hong Kong, even though it was not protocol. I sent them the email he wrote as he admitted to taking my money in it, and I felt that this could support my case. A Virtu phone is very expensive and it retailed for about $30,000 US at the time, and I'm sure this claim was just a way to extort more money from me. I certainly didn't have it or even know what it was. I told the police that Truman's accusation of phone theft was a lie, and I included his home address in the email. I was proud that I was able to find his exact address using my memory of where we'd been and Google Maps. I also gave them the location of his old phone company and the shop where he had his little counter with Jack. PC Rick Hall from the public service team responded by asking for another more precise statement with the times of day and exactly what was said. I sent it and asked whether this counted as a crime and how the police would proceed from there. In response, the police asked for photos of my injuries and to have those injuries documented by a doctor for medical evidence.
Kathy Waters and Bryan Denny from Advocate Against Romance Scams discuss ways that victims of dating scams can overcome feelings of guilt or shame.
A lot of times they use their own words. I'm stupid. I was dumb. That is absolutely not the case. These scammers are professionals. They're extremely smart. They know exactly what to say and when to present the right things to say. The women and men are very down on themselves when they first come out. They're ashamed. They're embarrassed. But they need to understand that they were the victim and think this is not normal. This is a crime. People get mixed up in money laundering, and who in their right mind would commit such a crime if they weren't manipulated? Or for people who get stuck in scams like this, they're professionals. These guys know exactly what they're doing. They know their job.
We really just try to stress to people that, hey, you're not alone. This happens to a lot of very good people, and I think Kathy does that really very well. Just kind of saying, it happens, right? And that's why this is a billion-dollar industry. It's not because you did something silly. It's because thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people get taken in by guys who have learned how to do this over time, and they have nothing to do but this all day because this is a job. This is what they do for a living. And you get good at it by casting a wide net and then focusing on people. And, if you could be accused of being tenderhearted or kind or just wanting to help a soldier, but they know how to weed folks out. And there's nothing really to be ashamed of. Be grateful that you found out and now can be kind of on the road to recovery, so to speak.
Kathy explains the role of Advocate Against Romance Scams and their hopes for what they can achieve in the future.
To provide the best information out there, we want everybody to know what we're doing in this fight for this. When we started this, nothing was being done. There's multiple anti-scam groups out there that are doing so much for the victims, but we couldn't figure out why nothing was being done legally. And, we met with Congress here in the United States and come to find out there is a law actually in place that allows social media to not be responsible for what's posted on their site from the scammers. Like, they'll build these accounts that will provide victims information to be used as mules or money laundering purposes. And how can a crime be allowed like that online and the social media companies not be responsible? It's mind-blowing. So when we found out this law, we decided to tackle it from that end. And we want every victim to know what's going on because that's their right. They're the ones that were victims in this. They have now survived this, and they need to know that there are people out there fighting for them and fighting for their safety and security on the platforms. Unfortunately, there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to fall for a scam, and that's why we have to keep providing the education and the awareness. There's always a different story. They will always come up with something different in order to get your money.
Kathy and Bryan share some valuable advice to anyone who believes they may be caught in a romance scam.
Go with your gut. They'll question it, and that's telling you something right there when you question it. I would give them, definitely scenarios of what's used. A lot of times the same stories are used. Give them the red flags, any websites to go to other than ours if they wanted to check up on their own. Even the Army has information on the different social media scams.
Yeah, I would say talk is cheap. The minute someone says, hey, would you do this, send me this, to include when people ask for pictures. I think a lot of people get kind of trapped into this by providing pictures that they ultimately get kind of blackmailed with. You really just don't know who's at the other end of the keyboard. So be cautious. If somebody's pushing you past your comfort zone, you don't know who they are, then you shouldn't be sending them pictures, money, iTunes cards, or any of the other stuff. Just use common sense. Don't talk to strangers. Don't give money or anything else to people you don't know, and you're probably going to be okay. I mean, it's unfortunate that it preys upon trusting, good-natured, good-hearted people, these kind of things. And you go, well, it could never happen to you. But as Kathy said, it does happen to good people all the time.
Here's a few words from our sponsor, healer Michelle Harris, from Michelle Harris International.
Are you seeking change or a new perspective? Do you want to move forward to grow personally, spiritually, or professionally? Are you ready to optimize your work performance and create more business success? Do you seek guidance and effective solutions for your relationships, your family, your business, or your life? If you want more joy, love, success, abundance, and happiness, Michelle Harris International offers unique services for adults, kids, teens, and businesses. It's time to move forward and live your magnificence. Get in touch now to receive 10% off your first session. Offer ends January 31st, 2020. Michelle Harris International, creating empowerment, healing, and life solutions that work. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, Michelle Harris International.
Sharon is Australian and is in her mid-50s. One day, she was feeling particularly lonely, and it didn't help that it was her birthday. She has an autistic son who she takes care of, and often also babysits her grandchildren. She received a message on Facebook from someone she didn't know. Slowly, she formed a relationship with a man whose life seemed fascinating.
It was in April. I got a friend's request from someone. I hesitated for a week and I didn't think anything of it, and I thought, oh, what the heck? He lives so far away. He can't hurt me. And then I accepted the friend's request. That night, he sent me a message saying who he was, where he lived, what he's doing, about his family, his wife, and that sort of stuff. Then I sent a message back saying, oh, I'm just someone from a country town and I'm really nobody. And I said, I don't think I should be, we shouldn't be friends, or because I think that, you know, he's upper class and I'm nothing. I'm a nobody. And anyway, he goes, oh no, you'll be my first and last since my wife passed away. And I thought, oh, okay, well, we can be friends and we can still talk. And he goes, yes, that would be great. He said that he's got a grandson who is living in Michigan and he is with a carer. His wife passed away and his son passed away in a car accident. And the mother, or his son's wife, didn't want the child. She found a new life and didn't want the son anymore. So the child was with a carer. We were talking and then he said, oh, his grandson is sick. He needed some money to help medical expenses. So I sent him some money. It was only half the amount of the money he asked for. He asked for $600 and I sent $300. And he said, can I send the rest? And I said, I'll send it when I get paid again. So I sent the money the second time. Then Western Union contacted me saying that they couldn't send the money and started asking me questions. Do you know this person? I said, oh, we've been talking for nearly 2 months. And they said that it's a scam. And I sent a message to the person I was talking to, and he said, no, it's not a scam. That's what they're saying. They'll say all this, so I can't send any money to him for his grandson. Then his carer the carer of the grandson contacted me saying, how could you believe he's supposed to be your partner. And I thought to myself, well, he ain't my partner. But in the end, he said, go send the money through MoneyGram. So I sent the money through MoneyGram. And that was sent to Michigan. I asked for the receipt for the medical expenses. And I asked what was wrong with the grandson. He said he's got the measles. And I said, there's nothing you can do for measles except for bed rest and staying in a dark room and having paracetamol. And I said, I used to work in aged care and an assistant in nursing, and I've had children, and I know what to do. And I even Googled it, and I sent him pictures of what to do if you have measles. Then he came back and said, oh, we need more money for immunisations. Seriously. So I sent some more money. Then we were still talking, and we got on. He sent so many messages to me, so many love messages saying he loved me. He ended up saying his grandson's birthday, and that was in May. And can I send some money to the carer for the birthday? I said, I can't send any money. And his grandson was actually talking to me prior to his birthday saying that he doesn't have anything to play. He sits at home by himself. He likes soccer and he can't go to school yet because he's still recovering from the measles. So I said, okay. So I sent him an iPad for his birthday. And then I was asked if I could send a phone. I did ask, why didn't you have a phone? He goes, because it got damaged. And I thought, okay. He wanted to stay in contact with me and he's not always on his computer. And I thought, okay, so I sent him a Samsung phone. Then they said they needed some money to send the phone to him from Michigan to Nigeria. At that time, I still didn't think anything of this being a scam. I said, well, I haven't got the money to send that. And he said, can you send me another phone? So I sent him another phone, the latest model Samsung again. I brought that and I was paying that off through a credit company here in Australia. So I sent the phone and I sent it to Nigeria. And then he said he was going to come over here to Australia because he's retiring soon. He wanted to be with me. Still lots of messages every night. We were talking every night and sometimes during the day. And then his friends started messaging me as well, saying how much George had loved me. He thinks I'm just wonderful and he'd be so lost without me. I thought, oh, wow, this is so great. I've got someone who loves me. And I just started to have that feeling of loving this person back. And people around me noticed I had changed. I was a big person. I was in size 24. He gave me so much inspiration. I felt good about myself. And people said that, oh, I'm glowing. I didn't want to tell anybody why. And then I had the courage to tell someone that I was talking to someone. And this person did. He made me feel so good. I lost 30 kilos of weight. And then the carer messaged me and said that the grandson has had an accident at school and broke his arm. Can I send more money? And that was $3,000. Then he said he dropped the phone in the ocean. Can I send him another phone? I'll promise to pay you back. I'm paying you back. I was always saying I'm paying you back. So I sent him the phone. I sent him an iPhone because he wanted an iPhone. And again, I purchased this iPhone through a credit department. And I'm still paying for these phones. Then his friend would ask me to help him. And he asked if I can send him some money. It was only $100 and something. So I sent him $100 and something. He actually said he was giving it back to me. He did send it back to me. And I thought, okay. And that was through PayPal. Then George had said he's booking his flight to Australia to come and see me. And he said he only had half the airfare. I help out with the rest because he borrowed it off his friend, Philip. So I sent the rest of the money to him, and that was nearly another $3,000. Then his friend messaged me saying, when am I paying him back? I didn't know that it was up to me to pay this person back the money that he borrowed in the first place, but he was so demanding. I've been in a relationship with domestic violence, with abuse previously. I was scared. I didn't want to lose this person I was talking to. I didn't want to come between him and his friend. So the threats kept coming up. So I ended up paying him back. Then a message on my phone saying that George was in hospital. First he sent a message saying he had appendicitis, I need surgery. He needed money for surgery and medication before the flight to Australia. So I sent him some money again. Then he was okay. He got out of hospital. He said he went back to Syria. He said he's flying out here to Australia. I went to my daughter's place in Brisbane to meet George at the airport at 1 a.m. in the morning when the flight's supposed to have arrived. I went to the airport. He didn't turn up. I came home to my daughter's house. I was embarrassed because it was a big step in my life, meeting somebody. So I got up in the morning after arriving back at my daughter's place. I sat on the steps and cried and cried. My heart was broken and I had to go back home and face all the others. Then he messaged me saying that he was in Dubai and then from Dubai he was going to Singapore. He messaged saying that he needed some more money from Singapore to come to Australia because they wouldn't let him come in. He said he's getting deported back to Syria. And he said he was really upset about all this and he couldn't talk to me for a few days. So we didn't talk for a few days. I went home, everything was okay. I was just talking to him like normal, as if nothing was wrong. And then he said that he's got some money to put in my bank because it's part of his retirement. I gave him my bank details. He put $70,000 into my bank. He asked me to transfer some money to his friends because he owed them money. And all I was thinking, can you please pay me back some money? It was coming up for Christmas. I gave him all my money, all my savings. I had nothing for the children for Christmas. Then my car broke down and I said, look, my car's broken down. Can I borrow $500? He said, yes, I can have $500. I transferred the money to 2 accounts in Australia and to 1 account in the UK. There was still some money left in my bank. I didn't transfer it all out. Then I had the bank call me and they were rude. They asked me to go to the bank. I could be charged with money laundering and fraud. The bank told me I'm not to talk to them, not to speak to them. I did message them back before I went down to the bank. And I said to him, is this all legit? Because I've been asked to go to the bank. They're saying this is fraud and money laundering and I could be charged. They said, yes, it is all legit. And his friend said, don't worry, don't stress, it's all okay. I panicked. I deleted all our messages. I went to the bank. I was so brokenhearted. I cried and cried. I didn't want to face the consequences. I just wanted to commit suicide. I just wanted to die. I couldn't tell anybody that I was in trouble. I lost my daughter. I lost my grandchildren. I couldn't speak to them. It just ruined my family. The closeness we had over a mistake.
She reported the scam to ScamWatch, but nothing happened. Finally, she reported the crime to the police in Brisbane, where a senior officer was very supportive. He advised her to report the crime to Acorn, Australia's cybercrime online reporting network. In a frightening turn of events, her bank contacted her to tell her that they were considering whether to charge her with money laundering, and that she could end up with a 10-year prison sentence. The stress of these events led Sharon to seek psychological help, and she was put on medication. Sharon had sent 3 phones, an iPad, and 16,000 Australian dollars to her scammer. She's still paying off what she owes on the phones. 7 months after the fact, she heard from the bank that they'd decided not to prosecute her. She's still recovering from her ordeal. Next episode, we learn the outcome of the quest for justice. My mother uses her knowledge about scammers and their fake profiles to play them at their own game. She actively seeks to meet one on Tinder, and after a number of stonewall silences, she finally convinces a scammer living in Ghana who's actively involved in the global scam network to talk to her, and he shares his motivations and tactics. Make sure you listen to the next episode of Fool Me Twice. Watch out. Fool Me Twice is based on a memoir of the same name by my mother, Jules Hannaford, and is written and directed by me, Zara Hannaford. It's produced and edited by Jules Hannaford, with music and sound design by Shayde Furlong. Our theme song was sung by Angele Meyerhoff. Thanks to all the actors, experts, victims of scams, and the scammer who contributed to this podcast. If you suspect that you or someone you love may be involved in a romance scam, please reach out to Advocate Against Romance Scams on Facebook for support, or contact your local police for advice. You can get your own copy of Jules' memoir, Fool Me Twice, on Amazon. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate and review Fool Me Twice on Apple Podcasts, and then please share it with your friends and family. If you'd like to support the production of Fool Me Twice, please go to Patreon and search for Fool Me Twice. For as little as $5 or $10 a month, you can see more of the Skype chat between Truman and Jules, receive online dating safety tips, and get your own copy of Jules' memoir. You know that feeling you get when someone is just a great listener? And you just feel like they've given you space to talk through whatever it is that's on your mind. And afterwards, you come away feeling somehow lighter, definitely supported. Or what about times when someone said to you, "Oh, I feel so much better after talking to you"? What was it exactly that you did? In times of grief or when people we love need support in what they're going through, we use this skill called holding space. It's pretty simple really, but it's definitely something we can practice and get better at. Holding space is a way to become comfortable with vulnerability and to make it possible for others to feel really taken care of. I've created an online course that breaks down exactly what it is about holding space that feels so essential to human relationships. I've included practical advice on how we can hold space even better for the people in our lives without depleting our own resources. That part's important. This course is for friends, parents, teachers, mentors, and kind of anybody who cares. Visit my website to register your interest. Enrollment opens soon. movecreateplay.com/holding space.
Hong Kong Confidential is a podcast designed to educate and entertain my audience. It's an interview-style show where many topical social issues are discussed and personal stories are shared. The podcast can be inspiring, confronting, harrowing, and at times hilarious. We all need to be heard to heal, and listening to the experiences of others can often help the rest of us deal with what life has to throw at us. Hong Kong Confidential, available on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and Google Play.